Hey, Greg, back with GGN, continuing our series on eternal rewards. We've been talking the last couple weeks about the Bema seat of Christ and how Jesus wants to reward all of us in eternity in heaven for our fruitful life here on earth. Standing by a lemon tree in my backyard, and there are literally probably 100 lemons right now in full bloom, ready to be eaten or squeezed or put in your iced tea. But they also drop seedlings that can be influential for thousands of lemons in the long run, and this tree continuing to grow. And that's the way it is for the Christian who wants to have influence for Christ out of obedience and staying in the Word and staying in the Spirit, is a very fruitful life. In the meantime, there are those of us who know Christ, and we don't live as much for the pleasure of Christ. We tend to live more in the flesh and on occasion in the Spirit. And our lives may have a little bit of fruit, but generally not a whole lot of fruit. You'll see that this bush is flourishing some, but there still isn't a bunch of flowers on it because it's not the right season. But also, as human beings, sometimes the right season never happens for us because we often live only a little bit in memory of Christ and a lot in our flesh. And so there's very little reward for life like that. And then today I'm dealing more with the life that really maybe shows a little bit of life, but really is just pretty much dead, like this bush. And I want to deal specifically not just with people that are dead, but that people that are dying and going to hell because their life here on earth, they have no interest in Jesus. And last week I shared with you a little chart for the believer. Today I'm talking about the great white throne judgment, a whole different judgment seat than the Bema seat for Christians. The great white throne judgment talks about the judgment seat that God has for unbelievers specifically, not for Christians and not for godly Christians or Christians living sometimes in the spirit and sometimes in the flesh. This is dealing with unbelievers. And let me just read to you a little bit out of Revelation 20:11. Who are the subjects again at the great white throne judgment? They're unbelievers. Anyone not found in the book of life, according to Revelation 20, verse 12 and 15. What's the purpose? The Christian purpose for the Bema seat is eternal reward. The purpose at a different judgment seat, the great white throne judgment, is punishment. It's sober. It's hard to speak about, but it's punishment. Where's their destiny? It's not heaven. It's hell. For the unbeliever who chooses to say, I don't want to trust Christ. Friends, I've talked with people on their deathbed. I'll never forget a lady in the Northwest I went to visit several times at the request of her family who kept saying no to Jesus. No, I don't want Jesus. And she died, unless she turned to Christ in her last few seconds, she died without Christ, which means her eternal destiny is hell. What's the resurrection? There's a first resurrection for the Christian, and we'll see at the Bema seat, but the resurrection for the unbeliever, friends, is called the second resurrection. It's in Revelation 20:11 through 15. It's sad. It's condemnation, punishment, hell. What's the means? What's the measure? It's called the book of works. Revelation 20:12, God says, okay, you non-Christian, you think you've done a lot of works here on earth for me? Let's evaluate your life and look at your works. And the Bible shows clearly that not one person, not one can come into heaven that doesn't know Christ. And everyone without Christ who tries to boast of their works, but it's not done in the Spirit of Christ for Jesus, has eternity away from Christ in hell. And when's the time? It's before the new heavens and the new earth. Revelation 20, verse 10 and 21, talk about that. Let me give you an idea, just a little bit, of what I'm talking about. This is serious, friends. Sometimes we make this a laughing matter. It's not a laughing matter. People talk about the man upstairs and joke around and say, well, I hope I can make heaven. No, you either make heaven by turning to Jesus and trusting in him, or you go eternally away from him, saying you don't want Jesus to have anything to do with your life or your eternity. But let me illustrate by this. I had the privilege of honoring Christ as a baseball pitcher in college, but I wasn't the most talented. I may have worked hard. Myself and my buddy Mike Horan did a lot of overtime work in baseball to have strong careers for Christ, for Christ. And Mike and I to both have strong careers academically. and also athletically. But Mike and I knew another guy who was a pitcher on our team, our freshman, sophomore, and junior year, who had the most talent. In fact, he had so much talent, he would have been a first or second round draft choice in the Major League Baseball draft. But he wound up joking around, not using his talent to the glory of God. Though he was the most talented, he was not the most productive or the most effective pitcher my freshman, sophomore, or junior year. He graduated at the end of my junior year. But what happened was even sadder as he continued to do not only what he did in sports, not using his talent properly, but he wound up living life like that and ended his life early, very early in life, drowning after he got drunk, rolling down a hill and drowning in a puddle. What a horrible, horrible story for someone who had such great potential but had really very little life. I pray he came to Christ before he died. I pray for you that you take hell seriously, for you in your own life, your loved ones. Share about the good news of Jesus, and God bless you. Let's lead fruitful lives. Let's do it in the power of Christ, under his name and for his glory. God bless you. It is real. People are dying by the day and going to hell. Let's pull them out. God bless you and bring them to Jesus.